and I was in the yoga world and just seeing the popularity of sound baths and thinking people are laying down on the floor with their eyes closed, essentially listening to sine tones. I mean, they're listening to these crystal bowls and they're having transformative experiences and like healings. I mean, like what's going on? Like this is this is experimental music. Like they're
Yeah.
listening to experimental music. And I thought, oh man, they're laying down, they have their eyes closed, they're in a different state of mind, their bodies are in a different state of mind. There's the room has an energy. The whole experience they're having is allowing them to receive sound as vibration, as what it really is. And then it doesn't matter if it's the gong or if it's the crystal bowl or if it's the chime or whatever instrument comes through, like they are taking it in as vibration. And I thought, well, what if I do my experimental, quote unquote, for vocal performance, but people are laying down with their eyes closed? Are they going to receive it in a different way instead of asking me about myself? And it worked.
Folks, this week's guest is Odeya Nini, an interdisciplinary vocalist and composer. How do you amplify the resonance of your voice in a way that your energy and emotion can be felt and heard? You'll want to tune in to hear what Odeya shares. Let's cue the intro. Welcome to the Boom Vision Podcast, the show that empowers you to live an enriching life physically, mentally, and spiritually. I am your host, Benjamin Ye, and I created this podcast to give you perspectives on how to strengthen your mindset so that you can build optimal health, create aligned wealth, and connect with your higher self. It's all interconnected. Let's get to work. Welcome to episode 51 of the Boom Vision Podcast. I'm delighted to share today's interview with Odeya Nini. As a brief background, Odeya is a Los Angeles-based interdisciplinary vocalist and composer. Her solo vocal work is an investigation of resonance, extended vocal techniques, performance practices, and pure energy, exploring the relationship between mind and body and the various sonic landscapes it can yield. Her work has been presented at venues and festivals across the US and internationally, such as the LA Phil, Merkin Concert Hall, the Broad Museum, and Mona from Los Angeles to Tel Aviv, Australia, Mongolia, Madagascar, and Vietnam. Her performance of I See You was included in the New Yorker's 10 Notable Performances of 2021. She is the founder of Free the Voice and leads vocal sound meditations, workshops, and retreats, exploring the transformative and healing qualities of the embodied voice. So without further ado, here's Odeya. Odeya Nini, welcome to the Boom Vision Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ben. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to have you, Odeya. I love to start with your origin story. Tell us about where did it all start for you and what's led to what you do today?
Yes, I am an interdisciplinary vocalist and a composer and a teacher. I lead sound meditations. I work one-on-one with people and lead workshops. I am a practitioner of the voice, not songs, not singing. I don't think of it so much as singing. Yes, singing is a part of it, but it really is this instrument that is our human instrument, our vibration, our sound, and speaking about it in a different kind of way. So I began, my earliest love was theater. That's where I began as a child. I was dreaming of being an actor and actually living in Hollywood one day. Here I am living in LA. Never thought I would actually, but yeah, I wanted to be in the movies. I wanted to take on different roles and different names and different stories and different histories and just a different me, be a different person, I think. And that kind of evolved, and I studied that through high school pretty seriously. And I grew up in New York, in Riverdale, New York, part of the Bronx. but my parents are from Israel. And so they moved back to Israel in the mid 90s. I was in high school at the time, and I lived there for 6 years. I went to an arts high school there and studied theater. And then I had to serve in the mandatory IDF, the Israeli Defense Force. And that is where I actually started to sing. I was in a military band for a while that I started actually, and but there were many military bands, and there wasn't really an opportunity for theater, although there is a military theater. But I actually was, I thought, I'm going to study characters. I'm in a really different kind of situation here in the military. What am I doing here? It was a very bizarre and very interesting time in my life from the age of 18 to 20. And yeah, I started to sing. I would come every week. I would go home once a week, and I would come back to the base with instruments, darbuka, a guitar. I taught myself how to play guitar, and I ended up, yeah, being in this army band. And at the end of my service, I just loved it a little too much. I thought, oh no, but what about theater? I loved theater all these years, and now I'm singing. And I still, I was kind of holding on to this love of theater, but I ended up leaving Israel, moving to New York, wanting to go to college and study theater. I wanted to go to NYU Tisch school, and I didn't get in. I didn't get in, and it was I just, my heart wasn't in it. I still kind of tried, and I thought I
Mm.
gotta keep on with this dream of theater. And I was like, I actually really want to be a musician.
Mm.
And I felt like I had never been a musician before, which was an interesting thing. Like I felt like, wow, I mean, my identity was so attached to being an actor, and I thought I never sang before. And I remember when sharing with my friends, like, I'm gonna study music, and now I'm singing, and they're like, you always sang. I was like, I did? I just never really, I never thought about it. And I ended up going to the New School for Jazz and Contemporary Music. And yeah, really wanted to find my voice. I did not want to be a jazz singer. My idea of jazz at the time was very limited too. I thought I loved these. I mean, I love this music, Ella Fitzgerald and Nina Simone, and incredible vocal artists. And I thought, yeah, I appreciate them, but that's not me. That's not my story. I'm not a jazz singer. I'm not interested in singing standards. But going to the New School was kind of a way. Well, it was a New School for Jazz and Contemporary Music. So there were several of us there that were kind of, okay, I'm studying this art form to kind of to be a better musician, to then find who I am. And after 2 years of kind of requirements of singing standards, of working with, vocal musicianship, jazz musicianship, I was liberated and was able to explore and be in the classes that were more experimental, like free jazz and sound and time and jazz and its exponents, and like learning about all this vast world of expression that was in the jazz world, this improvisation and the rhythm and the energy. Really at the heart of jazz is energy.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is what I've been searching for. And also relating back to theater, I mean, it is that energy of the embodiment, where I realized that what I didn't like about theater was the typecasting and like the culture of theater, the way it was done. I mean, of course, there are many ways to do it, but the kind of more traditional way of like, you look this way, this is your role, this is what's right for you. And I just thought, and actually, what a big challenge in theater was that I was told that they couldn't hear me. The directors would be like,
Wait,
"Dick,
what?
projection," and yes, and I'm
Huh.
not when I speak, my speaking voice, it's gotten louder, but I am not. I'm more of a soft spoken person. Like,
Yeah.
having conversation at a bar is very hard for me still. Like my voice, I don't have that like like piercing. It's
Yeah.
I know how to work with it in a way where it gets very, very loud when I use it
Right.
intentionally. But when I speak, it's kind of more in the mid, low, and kind of. So yeah, I wasn't heard, and I was like, but I'm in this character, and I'm feeling it, and I'm like, my whole body's in it. Like, you're telling me to like turn a few inches to the left so someone in the back can see me. Like I was just like, no,
Mm.
I'm in it, and I didn't want to be bothered. And in jazz, I realized when I got into kind of free jazz, free improv, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm not bothered. I am expressing. I am letting something move through me. I am feeling. I am channeling. I am, all the notes and the tones and the yeah, I felt like I could really set myself free there. And that kind of evolved into so many more things. I ended up going to grad school for composition. I studied instrumental composition. I got really into exploring kind of sound and texture and wanting to create worlds for other people to exist in my own notation, and how are people entering these worlds, an ensemble, and kind of affecting the whole experience of music, of sound, of harmony, everything kind of, what is it? Just wanting to like dig my hands deep into it and discover like what more is it? I am not interested in entertaining anybody. I never was.
Mm.
Like I want people to feel, to relate, to be moved, to you
Express.
yeah, to like feel
Yeah.
something when they experience my work as an artist. And so yeah, so I came out to California, I went to Cal Arts, studied composition, and then got into movement practices. So I should say that while I was at the new school, I did a yoga teacher training.
Mm.
Very important part of my parallel kind of path. Started practicing yoga when I was around 18, when I was in the military actually. And yeah, at 24, I did a yoga teacher training and in New York, and started teaching yoga, and I taught for 15 years. And
Mm.
that was kind of happening parallel to my exploration and my, evolution as an experimental artist and all of
Yeah.
that. And when I moved out to California, 2009, I just learned more about somatic practices and started working with dancers a lot more, and movement artists, not just, traditional dance, but really people working with their bodies and letting the movement be guided by the mind, by imagery, by many things. And there was this whole world of that I didn't even know existed. And also in terms of sound, when I went to CalArts, I learned about just intonation and spectral music and harmonics, and the harmonic series, and like the nature of sound. And it was like, oh my God, this is huge and incredible, and so much more than, just yeah, so much more. And I was excited to kind of to keep discovering like what is that. Yeah, so that's,
Mm.
yeah, I mean, there's so much in more and within that, but
Yeah.
it's kind of how I got to do what I do. And then kind of became that embodied vocal artist. The first iteration of this piece that I've been doing, that I call a solo voice, that keeps evolving and keeps changing, but I've kept this title, a solo voice, because it just is a solo voice. And it was my grad school recital.
Mm.
I was just exploring sound. I had these different resonators. I had like 6 guitars that I put in the space, and I was singing just next to them and letting them like ring,
Mm.
after the end of my note, and just kind of showing, to people, I think, and also to myself, that like when I'm using my sound, like there is a wave moving through space, an invisible wave, and it is touching, it is moving, it is altering things. There's resonance, there's acoustics, there's a bouncing back. There's so much that we are not seeing that we can be in relationship with. And there's just so much to explore there that's really rich. And I became kind of, as an artist, I just kind of became very conscious and aware of that, and putting that into my work and my compositions.
Mm.
And I think the kind of teaching I really have come to is really from people approaching me after seeing me perform. And it was something different that they hadn't seen before, and they're seeing me embody my voice and express and move and release, and kind of through this cathartic experience. And they were just like, do you teach? And I said, Yes, I mean, I did teaching. I worked with children. I kind of did some more traditional stuff, and then it's really people reaching out to me and wanting to kind of, they're like, you're doing something that I feel like I need.
Mm,
Non-musicians, just people like, oh, you whatever you did with your voice, like I need that in my body. Like, do you teach? What do you teach? I don't know what you teach, but can I work with you? And I said, all
yeah,
right, let's meet. And, it's 13 years that I've been teaching in this way,
yeah,
starting out. And it really, that's kind of how it began. And I thought, okay, how do I help people? How do I look at myself and look at others? And how do I guide them? How do I listen to them and think of what I've gone through and know in my body and my experience, and try to kind of transfer that. I mean, of course, I did have teachers and very inspiring teachers and vocal teachers and yoga teachers and somatic teachers. So yeah, it's not like I didn't have teachers that have passed things on, but really the things that I teach are not direct teachings from others. They've been filtered through my own
yeah.
experience and kind of.
Thank you for sharing that, Odeya. What I heard from you is through your life journey from initially this love and spark in theater, which is really just an expression of emotions, right?
Mhm,
From that to then kind of life gently kind of nudging you to no, let's do more voice, right? Because then it kind of evolved into this love of music but expression from voice.
mhm,
And from that, what I've heard is, well, it's not just expression to be heard, but it's really a form of expressing what you're truly feeling inside.
mhm.
And that point you made of when you went down this, you used the word experiential,
Experimental, I said. Yeah.
experimental, and being a solo like artist, like so. I'm curious when someone feels that freedom that is what I'm sensing is that freedom that you can express in the art that you show,
Mhm.
then they somehow are nudged to, hey, there's what can you teach me, right? And so tell me a little bit more about the initial encounters of someone coming up to you and saying, "Do you teach?" How did that evolve? Tell me more about that.
I think when it really started happening more and more is when I started leading sound baths, sound meditations, which I was calling voice bath, and more recently have been calling vocal sound meditations.
Hmm.
And I started doing those not long after I graduated from CalArts, so it was around 2012, I think was the first one I did. I'd
Hmm.
been teaching yoga for a long time, and being, as I said, an experimental vocalist. That's how what I called myself then, thinking that, I mean, this is experimental music, and since I have kind of changed that title to an interdisciplinary vocalist. But experimental music, I there were so many people that already think that experimental music is not for them. Like they just hear the term experimental music, and they were just like, I'm not into experimental music.
Hmm.
and and I was doing what I've been doing, calling it experimental music, and realized that people were not letting themselves into that experience.
Hmm.
And yeah, I was still kind of finding who I was in that. And the result was that people at the end of my performances would ask me about me, like, what did you feel? What was that? They had like a lot of questions for me. And I love questions. Here we are in a podcast, but I didn't really want to be asked certain questions after a performance.
Hmm.
I didn't want people to try to like figure out like what I was doing. I wanted them to have an experience with it. Like, what did you feel? What did you like, you tell me about you. You just experienced this work. Like what happened for you? Like I really wanted I wanted what I was doing to kind of leap out of my body and leap out into the space between us and with us in a shared space so that people would have their own experience. And I was trying to be very intentional about that. And with the sound baths were kind of becoming more popular, and I was in the yoga world and just seeing the popularity of sound baths and thinking people are laying down on the floor with their eyes closed, essentially listening to sine tones. I mean, they're listening to these crystal bowls, and And they're having transformative experiences and like healings. I mean, like what's going on? Like this is, I mean, this is experimental music. Like they're
Yeah.
listening to experimental music. And I thought, oh man, they're laying down, they have their eyes closed, they're in a different state of mind, their bodies are in a different state of mind. There's the room has an energy. The whole experience they're having is allowing them to receive sound as vibration, as what it really is. And then it doesn't matter if it's the gong or if it's the crystal bowl or if it's the chime or whatever instrument comes through, like they are taking it in as vibration. And I thought, well, what if I do my experimental, quote unquote, for vocal performance, but people are laying down with their eyes closed? Are they going to receive it in a different way instead of asking me about myself? And it worked. I mean, that's
Wow.
all I can say is that, I mean, okay, I will say that the most important thing and what I have discovered, which has been an extremely pivotal point and transformative thing in my practice, is that how important our intention is,
Yeah.
and not to take that lightly, not to take that for granted. It is everything. I can sing the same note pitch wise twice. And if I'm thinking of something else, like what's going on in my mind, in my heart, in my intention is different, that note will be different. It will be felt different. I've just experienced it so many times again and again to know. I can't explain how, but I know that what we put into it, our bodies, how we show up with it, our energy is extremely powerful and palpable, and people feel that. And when I was in that voice bath, which was what I called it, and singing for people, my experimental, using extended vocal techniques, playing with my voice, being dynamic, being expressive. Still, I had my bowls, I had my Himalayan bowls, and was thinking about them and sending this sound to them, whether it was a dark guttural sound or a sweet beautiful high, whatever it was, I was imagining my sound moving through them and wrapping around them and lifting them and carrying them and sending a lot of love
Mm.
to them in that first voice bath, because there they were laying down with their eyes closed, very vulnerable. And I had to consider them and their bodies in a different way too. And yes, that first one, someone came up to me and she said, "Thank you." And she just told me what she saw. She's like, "I felt that I was dot, dot, dot." And I just thought, yes, thank you. Because I just understood something really important about this work, about resonance, about sound, about my voice, about experience, about relationship, as a
Yeah.
performer, my audience. And I think the more I did that and the gratitude people felt in, coming to me afterwards and saying thank you, like, it was just like, wow, yes. Usually after a jazz performance, you'll say like, wow, that was so great. You are so talented. Like that was amazing. That was an amazing
Yeah.
performance, but the first thing maybe, and you might say, thank you for that amazing performance. But when people started coming up to me and the first thing they said was thank you, I thought, okay, I'm giving a gift and they're thanking me and they're receiving something. And yeah, and so they would come up to me and feel moved, things coming up for them, and they felt like there was something, it touched something within them that they knew they needed to explore.
Yeah.
The voice is a human instrument. It's not like the cello or the beautiful cello or clarinet or anything else. And since it's an instrument we all have, when we hear other voices, we experience it in our own body. It's almost like I'm singing. I can hear someone expressing through their voice, and it's like it's happening to me. I mean, I think we feel that in general with art, with performance. I mean, we can like feel moved by dance, by, music, by art, like expressive arts. But especially when we hear a human voice, we just like, it's just like everything rises up to the throat, even though the voice is not in the throat. But it's just like,
Right.
because that's that bridge between, from our lungs, from the bottom, from the root to the mouth. It's just that bridge of the throat. We just like, it all rises up and we feel like, oh, that voice that I heard, I want to sound, I also want to sound. I feel my voice wanting to come out. I feel like
Yeah.
there's so much that is in our body when we hear other voices really expressing, and people were having those kind of experiences, and people that, non-musicians, people that might have never thought of needing voice work, maybe they thought they were on a path, a path with themselves, of healing, maybe even not, maybe even just feeling like something is stuck in their life, and suddenly they experience this, and it was like an aha moment of, oh, my voice, something in my expression has been stuck, something that I've been wanting to say, my history, my childhood, I wasn't heard. Someone told me once, single time, that I shouldn't sing, that I don't have a good voice. So many things come rushing up for people, and they're like, okay, no more, no more not exploring this part of myself. And
Yeah. So you touched on something that I want to go deeper because I get what you're saying, but I want to be able to break it down for folks that might feel also that resonance. So you said the voice is not in the throat, it's much more than that.
mm,
Tell me more, because in this sound bath, but then also this sort of hybrid voice bath that you give people that experience, I feel that resonance is what, oh my God, I didn't realize that part of my life is missing because that energy wasn't moving. And you've helped me move that energy. And
yeah,
so when they equate and connect the dots of like, okay, there's something about your voice that you can express. I want that freedom. So when you say the voice is on your throat, what do you mean by that? And how do you enable with your teachings to help people understand the essence of that?
yeah, that's a big topic.
It is, it is. That's why I was like, wait, there's something there.
The voice
I'd
not
love to
being,
hear more about that. Yeah.
yeah, so love that you also have your pillars that you speak of, and the ones that when I start out with a new student, I always talk about the things that are really the most important, when we're working with our voices. And one of the most important things is the imagination, our mind,
Mm,
and visualization, because there's so many involuntary muscles that get in the way and are a part in that bridge in the throat and our voices. And the mind, what we're thinking about, affects those involuntary muscles, softens them, releases them, so there isn't that tightness in the throat, in that bridge between our diaphragm, between our breath originates to where it comes out. We can really work with it through the abdominal muscles, the diaphragm, and intercostal muscles, and it comes out, as breath, as the voice, and the involuntary muscles can really block it. So the mind, the imagination, what I'm thinking about, is very important in terms of affecting those muscles. And then the visualization, the sense of seeing the voice, having a relationship with something that is unseen. Um,
mm,
that's a real, when with the voice being sound, being something that we can't see, anything that we can't see, we generally don't respect in the same way as something that is right in front of us. We can ignore it. We can be like, okay, it's, I don't see it. But we do value the physical and the visual in our society. And when there isn't something that is physical or visual, then it's like, we can ignore it. And the voice is something invisible, sound is invisible, but it is something physical that is moving through space. We just can't see it. We feel it. We
mm,
absolutely feel it. But we wouldn't hear our own voices if it wasn't bouncing off of another wall and coming back and penetrating my body. So respecting it enough and saying, I see you, voice. You are there. I'm giving you a color. I'm giving you a shape. I am working with you as material that is moving through space. And then I can be in relationship with you. So there's the part of being in relationship with something other than me, like me and the voice and this energy and this vibration that is moving through space. That is very important in terms of just respecting sound as a thing, that exists
mm,
in the universe, sound, vibration, and separate from my name, who I am, like there is sound and it is moving through me. I'm a human, it moves through me as the voice. Sound is everywhere. Cars make sounds, birds make sounds. I move the carpet in my room, it makes a sound. Like sound is a thing that exists.
mm,
And as when it moves through my body as a human, it is the voice. So I want to respect sound as sound. And then it also helps me separate myself and my history and my baggage, my all the stuff that comes with me that might be blocking me from sounding is important, because when I put the sound outside of me and I see it moving out of me and I'm working with it and I'm passing it like a ball from me to you and it passes comes back to me, then I can let go of some of my, issues or some of my things that might be
Mm.
holding me back and blocking me. And then only to, of course, then I do want to very much bring myself back into it, but I don't want to get in my own way, right? I don't want to be blocked by things. I want to be open. I want to be clear. I want to be a channel. I want to let my emotions and my stories and everything, my feelings, everything move through me and connect with you. I don't want things to be blocking me. So when I can externalize it and I think, okay, sound, my voice is right in front of me, I'm seeing it, I'm moving it, really helps. And sound being touch, it is, yeah, so it's really about these mental constructs, right? It's not like, okay, I sing, I'm going to think of my note, I'm going to do this and that, I'm going to practice with the keyboard. Like, to sing, to sound, and I say, being a sounder, being a vocalizer, using my voice, as opposed to thinking of singing songs where, yes, melody and words, and you can be right or wrong with song form. You can sing a song the wrong way, but being a vocalizer and a vocalist and using our voice, there's no right or wrong. There's only how committed am I to something? How engaged am I with what I'm doing? How present am I? Am I feeling it? If something doesn't feel right, I look at myself and I examine myself and I say, okay, well, was I in this thing? Was I committed to it? Or was I kind of like half-heartedly in it? Like, it's me. I can look back at myself and ask my questions and find my answers. But it is also very much on the technical level, like the imagination, the visualization, the way I'm thinking about it. My relationship with space. Do I feel comfortable taking up space? I'm thinking of my voice coming out from between my legs, from my heels, from every pore in my body, radiating three-dimensionally. Like, it's not just coming out of my mouth and my head and my face, but it's my whole me, my whole body is my resonating being and my sound and my voice. If you're sitting on a park bench, right? If you're sitting on like a wooden bench with a person, especially a low talker, you've experienced that, where you can feel the bench moving. You can feel it like when they're speaking, because the base of their spine is vibrating, their back is vibrating, their whole body is vibrating with their voice. So it's not the mouth, and we get very caught up in kind of lifting it up to the upper chest, to the throat, to the mouth, and being concerned with, like, my voice is up here in my face. Like, my voice is how I think, how I'm in relationship with myself, how I'm in relationship with what's around me, how comfortable am I sharing, how much do I want to share, the permission I'm giving myself, the allowance I'm giving myself, my relationship with the unknown, with darkness, with fear, with everything. There's just so many rich things to explore and to think about, to find ourselves, be in a body that is giving space for our breath to move through comfortably and dynamically, and yeah, to let our voice really shine, really shine.
Yeah. You're giving voice a multidimensional sort of life where it's not only just about being heard, but it's really about what are you feeling, right? So what I mean by that? So there's a quote that comes to me when you're sharing, and the quote is, "Words mean more than what is set down on paper. It takes the human voice to infuse them with deeper meaning." And this was by Maya Angelou. And why I bring this up is because what comes to me is that, because your pillars are imagination and it's visualization, right? And so you're breathing this life into the voice and that energy, and that's what you're exchanging, not just the surface level sound, but really, how does that help the person receiving emote? How do you feel it?
Mm.
right? Because we're all just energy. When you say resonance, like you feel that resonance. You don't just hear it,
Right.
right? And I feel like what it is that you do is help people understand through just a different perspective on how to. It's not just projection of being a louder voice or a softer voice. It's really more than that. But at the end of the day, what is it that you're expressing and how does it land on someone to make them feel, let
Yes.
alone the words that you're saying?
Yeah, yeah, and I talk a lot about the call, like we're calling. You're always wanting to call, you want to be heard. Anytime you're speaking, you want to be heard, even if there's no one there. Maybe you're speaking to yourself. Maybe you want the trees, to the mountains to hear you. But we are speaking, we're sounding so that another body can receive our signal.
Hmm.
And if you think about, the origins of communication, like or a mother-child relationship, just the vibration, feeling the vibration of another person, another body, like knowing that they're there, being comforted by their presence, by the movement of their voice moving you. And but calling is wanting to be heard, right? And when I'm sounding, it's not a volume issue. It's not I'm going to
Hmm.
just get it louder and turn it up. It's I am, yes, I might project my voice and want to be louder, but I want to move it forward so that it reaches and is heard. And
Yeah.
when I try to be heard, my whole body is trying to be heard. When I work in
Hmm.
workshops with people, like my whole, I'll do this an example, and it's like my eyebrows, my face, reach my arms, my spine forward, my arms, like my whole body is wanting to be. It's not just I'm not just going to stand there with a tall spine and try to be louder. Like no, and also it's like we all know that we can yell in someone's face and they still wouldn't hear us. Like it's not,
Hmm.
it is how you're saying something and how you want, like wanting something to really land. And that is something that many of us really are working through, like we and haven't asked ourselves that question. It's like, do I actually want to be heard? And this isn't so I could be yelling, I could be saying something
Hmm.
loudly, but do I actually want to be heard? Or I can say something softly or speak. And how do I want to be heard? Like, am I trying to be heard when I'm even speaking just with the grocer, whatever it is? Like, am I trying to be heard by this person? Yeah, so really working through all of those things, and it brings back a lot of questions and memories and moments in our lives that might have brought us to where we are now, where we don't want to be heard or afraid of being heard, and kind of unraveling those things and unbraiding them, and just, what's in there? What is it? And and inside, like at the heart of it, is something really pure, really, really, it's just pure resonance. And when we get to that place, when we're sounding, it's this pure resonant voice of ours, there's no separation anymore. It's just, we really, I feel from my experience, I feel that we become resonant beings. We're just, yeah, we're energy, we're balls of energy. And it's
Yeah.
so beautiful, and comforting and relieving. It's like, oh, what a relief that I am a ball of energy. And so are you. And this is beautiful.
Yeah. I really felt that because it's, how do I describe it? It's like part of your voice and resonance and how you currently express yourself is really an expression of how you kind of see yourself internally. And I think that's the journey you're talking about, which is just kind of bringing back to self of like, well, do I want to be heard? Because it goes back to intentionality, right? Kind of, you were talking about performances. If your intention isn't in a pure space, it will impact in
Mm,
how you project your voice. And there's such nuance to that, but there's also big ramifications of what that can do in terms of, do I want to be heard? And so you kind of go through, well, let's explore that first before we start working on the actual projection is, do you want to be heard? And when you have that clarity and intention, then you're really going into space because you're very clear on the direction.
yes.
So tell me more about your workshop. They're attending because of dot, dot, dot. What is that? What's the best way to frame it so that someone with this feeling maybe of stuckness or whatever it may be, if I feel X, oh wow, this workshop will help me release and move that energy through. How would you be able to explain that for people that are interested in a more further exploration of how to hone in on that voice in their own resonance?
Well, I'll just say that, I think from the time I started doing this work, I would say like around 2010, more seriously as teaching, there's been so much more voice work out there. Like, and now you hear the term vocal activation,
Mm,
and there are people working with voice. And I think that there's awakening in general in humanity, and there's a lot out there from the yoga world, starting with people practicing yoga and that kind of being normalized, and then other practices that have come, different somatic practices and the wellness and different experiences. People have all these different offerings, even at yoga studios, that are just have to do with just general mental well-being and physical well-being and thinking about things differently in women's circles and men's work and psychedelics and just so much that has been going on and that is incredible. That's more available to people and they're more aware of it and engage in it. And a lot of the people that come to me, it's either they don't even know, like I said before, that they didn't know they needed this. And it's like,
mm,
this, or they've been on the path and a lot of people are practitioners even and therapists. I have clients that are therapists that are their leaders, and they've done a lot of work and it's almost like it's coming to the heart of it. Like at the core, at the heart is my voice, because my voice is me that is moving outward and touching other people. And so, yeah, a lot of people come on the journey who are on the journey and at different points on the journey. And what the workshop really offers is being in community, first of all, with other people. So many people come to workshops and they say, this is the scariest thing I could imagine. And I'm here.
mm,
Thank you.
mm.
They're terrified. And you're in a
Yeah.
room. It's that classic nightmare of being, naked on a stage and public speaking and your teeth are falling out. We're terrified of speaking
Mm,
out, because there's nothing seemingly that I can hide behind. There's no instrument that I'm physically holding. There's nothing. It's me and my body. And we think like, it's just me until, hopefully I help people realize like, okay, yes, it's you, but it is a thing. It is energy. It is vibration. It's something we're working with.
mm,
And we're lucky. And it's such a gift to be able to work with it consciously. And we're all working with this. We're all in this together. It's a shared experience. The moment the voices come out of me, it's yours, it's ours. Just because you're not sounding doesn't mean you aren't a participant in all of it. And so we practice things that really show that sound is movement, sound is touch, sound is love, affirming to ourselves and to each other that our sound, whatever it is exactly what it needs to be. And I think consciously of how I'm sounding, of what I'm giving, and practicing being witnessed, being seen in a very comfortable, very safe space, like releasing my voice, releasing my sound,
mm,
playing with expression, a lot of call and response of just like, just, like, woohoo, I'm on a roller coaster and I'm excited, or like, oh, I'm angry. There's the theater, all the theatrical elements of it, of all those different personalities that are within me coming out through my voice. And playing, a lot of play. We don't allow ourselves to play. We think, this is me, this is my voice, this is what I sound like, this is who I am. If I go to an extreme, will I ever come back? Will I ever still be me? And yes, you will be you, just an expanded version of you. And then you have choice. It comes down to choice. I can choose what voice I'm using here and now. I can choose to sound like Janis Joplin. I could choose to sound like Maria Callas. I can choose to be this part of myself or this part of myself. And I have the palette, I have the colors because I've played with it, because I've traveled with it, because I've sat with it, with parts of myself through my voice. And then I'm not afraid of it anymore. And I'm not afraid maybe of many other things anymore because I've
yeah.
met parts of myself. And at the end, I do kind of end with shared homes. So an ohm with the lip seal, so a hum, essentially, an open tone, and then going inward internally into the hum. And it's very, and at the very last thing I always do is a coyote howl. So
Mm.
we're in the meditation, we're internal, we're homing, we're breathing, and then at the end we just kind of really let our
Let it
inner
out.
call, let it out with this howl and like, you know,
Yeah.
it's really a lot of pleasure. People smile, laugh,
Yeah.
deep exhale, and yeah, it's a beautiful journey. What I'd love people to know is to remember in the workshop Free the Voice. First of all, this is a whole other topic too, but what is
Yeah.
freedom? What is freedom? And especially in this sense, like free the voice. It's not doing whatever.
Mm.
Yes, it is, you can play with all sounds, all colors, but it's very much in a container of keeping someone safe, caring about them, being compassionate. You're not hurting anyone. You're really holding space for all the different colors to be inside for that freedom. We all know those people that quote unquote might be free or doing whatever they want, and it's very uncomfortable, and we don't enjoy that. So
Mm.
freedom is of all, many different ways that you can express and be within a container of compassion, of love and care, of consideration for what's around you, who's around you. But I subtitled the workshop Journey to Remember Your Sound,
Oh, beautiful.
because I feel like that's what it really, it's something. Some people think like, oh, it's not, I don't sing, I don't have a good voice. They shut themselves down.
Yeah.
What do you mean you don't have a good voice? Like, are you a human being? Yes, you are. You have a voice. Do you realize that? Like maybe you don't have to call yourself a singer, but you must acknowledge that you have a voice and you are using it all the time. Whether you think you have a good one or not, it is coming out of you and you're using it. And what a shame not to pay attention to it and not to be in relationship with it, because it's who you are. And there's so much medicine there with our voices. And I just hope that people, really acknowledge their voices and don't think that it's a privilege to sing, or like, some people do it and some people don't. Like, no, everyone can sing, everyone sounds. You maybe don't call, you don't have to call yourself a singer, call yourself a sounder. Everyone sounds and you are a sounder.
Mm.
And it's a lot of love. Your voice is love. It's self-love for yourself. It's a love that you're sharing through your vibration with other people. Again, even if it's a visceral dark sound, whatever it is, you're sharing your love. And yeah, I hope that everyone hearing can really consider their voice and yeah, pay attention to it and be in deeper meaningful conscious relationship with it, however that.
Yeah. I love that. And I love the words you use, free to voice, and it's that journey, because what I feel is like it's almost like creating the alignment between the true inner voice of what your soul wants to express to what you're actually expressing with this instrument of our throat and mouth and how we actually sound, right? Because when you're in that alignment, then there's really that confidence and power that comes with it. If you have this preconceived notion that, no, I don't sound good, I'm not a singer, well, that inner voice of that negativity then will really inhibit you to fully authentically express what it is your soul wants to say, be heard, be resonate with. And it just feels like you're taking them to that self-discovery and then reconfiguring it so that there's that clarity and that alignment.
Yeah, I think, aiming the adjective beautiful is usually attached to the voice. We try to have a beautiful voice,
Yeah.
but let's not try to have a beautiful voice. Let's try to have an interesting voice,
Mm.
captivating voice where someone is caught and they're listening, a sound that is wondrous, that is creative, that is unique, that is, yeah, find those other adjectives for it, and striving to have essentially a voice that captures, like, in many different ways. It could be beautiful, it could be
Yeah.
different adjectives, but if you want someone or something to hear you, and so how can I sound in a way that makes someone stop and gaze and look and maybe think about something differently?
I love to ask you. This is a question I asked all my guests, which is that if the DeLorean was real, if the time machine exists where you can travel back in time and you can pick the time, is it 8 years ago, 10 years ago, 15, whatever it may be, speaking to your younger self, what would you say to your younger self if you had that opportunity?
I think I would go back to childhood and I think I would just affirm to this person. I would just help them like feel really secure with and safe and say, you everything is good.
Mm,
Trust, you are loved, you're safe, don't be afraid. You are
mm,
loved. Really helping, yeah, just I think I'd felt those things as a child, like, but I think I held doubt, and I think now as an adult and in the practice that I'm in, and in the ways that I've learned to move through things and connect with something greater than me and feel, in the vibration, in the energy, in the cycle, and feel spirit, however, in its many definitions. As an artist, I think that, yeah, no doubt, like absolute trust and love, and don't be afraid. I think that's what I would go back and just like zap, like lightsabers,
yeah.
my child, like implant a chip of like really knowing that, like do not doubt that. Always
Yeah.
remember that.
You know, I felt that zap. I love that because even just saying it, you're healing parts of that inner child, right? By you just even expressing that. And I don't know, what just comes to me is I think having to go on through the journey you've gone through, you understand and can relate when someone is going through that vulnerable state or that self-doubt, where it's like, no, 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 there's life on the other end of the side. So being able to acknowledge that and feel that gives you that gift of being able to help them in that journey. So, last question, Odeya, is where can our listeners find you? What's your offering right now, and where can they find you?
Well, you can hear my music on Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere music streaming. You can find my albums. There's a recent album called Ode, that I released in the fall. And there's an album called Voice Bath, that is the sound meditation work. There's also a film on YouTube a 53-minute long voice bath film to that sound with like images of nature, and my website's odeyanini.com, and there's voicebath.com. And what I'm extremely proud of is this online course, freethevoice.com, which is a 26-week course. One lesson is released a week for 26 weeks. And once a month, there's an open call where I'm present asking questions. And yeah, it's a journey to remember your sound, free the voice. And I do one-on-one sessions and workshops. I have a workshop coming up June 24th in Ojai at a studio called Light and Space. Beautiful studio. And it's a 3-hour workshop followed by a sound meditation. But yeah, on Instagram, follow my work if you're interested, and more things will come up. But yeah, I'm here in LA.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I'll include all of your information in the show notes so that our audience can find you. Odeya, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing so generously. And I really appreciate the time that you gave today.
Much, Ben. Thank you. Thank you.
I hope you've gained another perspective today when it comes to expressing your thoughts and intentions through your voice. The takeaway I got from this interview is best summed up with this quote: "The only way to find your voice is to use it." This quote was by Jen Mueller. Folks, if you enjoyed today's interview, share this episode with who you feel can resonate with Odeya's story. Until next time, folks, be kind to yourself. Be in delight. Be you. Thank you so much for tuning in to my Boom Vision podcast. If you'd like to find out more about me and this podcast, head over to benjaminye.com. That's spelled BenjaminYeh.com. If you haven't already, click subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.